Okay, hello again. This will be, if you're watching these in order, this will be tape number or DVD or podcast or whatever, number 11. And this is sort of addendum 1. And in addendum 1, we're going to talk about treatment planning. And for those of you who are very well versed in treatment planning from your agency, from advanced practice class, from some of the elective classes you may have taken from your family's class, and you have been treatment planned up one side, down the other, and know exactly what you're doing, you can choose not to watch this one so long as you appreciate measurement and how measurement fits into a treatment plan. If measurement is hard for you, and even though you know treatment planning very well, you'd like a little information on measurement, watch this. If you haven't got a clue about treatment planning, you don't do it at your agency, and you don't really remember it from advanced practice, and you didn't choose any electives where it came up, be sure to watch this DVD. And the next and last one we're making will be a DVD on how to write the papers. So anyway, that's sort of the promo of these last two to come. Anyway, treatment planning. In advanced practice class, when I teach that class, and I think all of us teach it similarly, we talk about developing a treatment plan. And a treatment plan is something which has become a conscious part of clinical practice, in about the last 2 decades. Before that, therapists, clinicians may have thought of treatment plans, but it really started becoming a formalized part of one's work with clients sometime through the 1980s into the 1990s. And now most agencies require some kind of a treatment plan. They vary tremendously from one agency to the next. So when I've been doing different liaison visits with students and they show me their plans, there's some similarity, but there's a lot of differences among them. When I ask students to bring them into advanced practice class, there are some similarities and a lot of differences among them. So what I'm going to do here is go over what's on the board is a kind of skeleton of a traditional treatment plan. However, it may or may not begin to resemble the treatment plan that you may or may not have in your agency. And we'll talk about this in terms of especially highlighting the measure area. So any of you who are in here watching this who have had my advanced practice segment, this will look just like the document from advanced practice. As a matter of fact, it is an on-the-board version of, and on D2L, is a copy of what we go over in advanced practice class. However, in that class I talk about don't spend a lot of time really worrying about the measure. We will get to that in clinical evaluation. Lo and behold, here we are. I'd hate to make a promise fall quarter that I don't follow up on winter or spring. So here is the idea of measure. So first of all, treatment plan. What is a treatment plan? And we talked about this some when we discussed goal attainment scaling. We talked about it some probably in the very beginning of the class. The treatment plan is sort of your more or less formal agreement with your client or client group or whatever, whether it's an individual, if it's a couple, if it's a family, if it's a social skills group that you meet with at 2 o'clock in school. It is the agreement that you come up with you and your client, that this is the purpose of our time together. So if you're working with clients who are there voluntarily, they choose to be there, and you and they sort of agree on these are the issues that we want to work on. So as in goal attainment scaling, when we're talking about, here's your goal 1, here's your goal 1, here's your goal 2, here's your goal 3. If you're working with non-voluntary clients, sometimes it's a little more of a challenge to come up with what are your goals, because the client's goal might be, this is a big effing waste of my time. I don't want to be here. You're not going to make me, whatever the referring source wants. So I don't see why I'm here. Okay, and your goal is that the judge has said the client must be here for reasons A, B, C, D. So then you have to negotiate. But nonetheless, oftentimes the agency requires, the funding source requires, somebody says you have to have a document, and the document says this is our purpose in being here together. So let us say that you have a client, and the client comes in and They state that their reason, and let's just assume, hypothetically, make it easy, this is a self-referred client who comes into therapy just feeling cruddy. And so let's say it's a very kind of traditional demographic client. This is a 32-year-old woman, comes in with problems with anxiety, problems with depression, problems in relationships, that create whatever history for her, maybe most fitting of your agency, but someone where life just stinks. And what is her main treatment goal? What is her main purpose of being here? I just want to feel better. So big goal, want to feel better. Do you want to break big goal into smaller goals? So let's say that you decide one thing that she wants to do to feel better would be that she wants to improve her mood. So goal 1 is improve mood. Let's say goal number 2 is to increase her energy. So her mood is just down, she feels sad, she feels stressed, she feels rotten, she feels overwhelmed, and she just kind of has very, very low energy. Goal 3, she wants to improve her relationships, and let's say the one right now which is most bothering her is with her let's say preteen or early teenage daughter. So goal 1, improve my mood. Goal 2, increase my energy. Goal 3, improve my relationships. Now, goals, and in your agency you may have goals and objectives, and I sort of move the objectives out. You could big goal, feel better, objectives, or whatever. But I find it much easier to go from sort of, I want to improve my mood, to action steps. What is it that the client and I come up with are the things that they can do that will actually help the mood to improve? So the action steps are the doing. The goal is sort of what you want to see happen. I want my mood to be better. But what are you going to do about it? How are you going to improve your mood? So that's where action steps come in. This is the actual what am I doing? So what is one thing that somebody could do to improve their mood? Let's say that this is a client who has fairly decent money, fairly decent attitude about the medical establishment, and has been recommended by her doc that an antidepressant might be a good idea, and she just sort of talks to you about it. Well, would you be interested in trying this? So we live in an era where psychopharmacology is a big intervention, and many of your clients are on some sort of medication. And let's say our client has one thing she wants to do is to try an antidepressant. So one goal, one action step would be to try an antidepressant, or you could sort of more formalize that, take antidepressant regularly. What else is something that somebody could do to improve her mood? Well, let's say that you have worked in cognitive behavioral therapy and you want her to work on her self-talk. And this might be through a daily log of thoughts. And those of you who've taken the CBT class, we could call it the DTR, the daily thought record. You could call it the ABCDE chart, where she looks at her thoughts and then she actually writes down different ways of perceiving things and hence changing. So you try an antidepressant. She could work on her self-talk. Some things that some people consider are helpful for a mood might be to read inspirational literature. So if this is something that she likes to do, if she has a book of devotions, if she has a Bible, if she has a Quran, if she's Muslim, if she just has sort of, funny writings by, oh goodness, Dave Barry, or whatever she considers sort of things that she could read that would help her to feel better. So these would be 3 action steps aimed at improving her mood. Now we get to measure. How do I know that my mood is improving, or how does my client know that her mood is improving? How do I, her therapist, know her mood is improving? Well, what have we talked about in this class that could let us know if the client's mood is improving? Well, one thing she might do is take something like a Beck Depression Inventory, 2. Or she could take the Hamilton Depression Scale. Or she could do some sort of A-B design whereby she tracks. Here is my mood, and let's say that you were doing, as she's on the antidepressant. So she's going to talk to her doc about an antidepressant. She's not taking one now. She could track her mood. She really doesn't know much about self-talk, so she could track her mood for the first few weeks that you're working together. And she could then start on an antidepressant, write down when she starts on it. So here's her baseline. This would be starting on her antidepressant. As she goes on, she starts doing like a daily thought record. Then she starts doing an ABCDE chart, and she can put all of those little lines on her ABC. And then you can see how is her mood, when does she start doing different interventions, and what happens to her mood. And she could just chart on this something like, 0 through 10. 0 is very miserable, and 10 is she feels joyous or joyful. And every morning when she wakes up, or every night when she goes to bed, she just says, today I felt on average like about a 2. Today I felt on average like about a 5. So that would be a way to measure, is her mood improving? Now you could also measure the action steps more specifically. The antidepressant, she could just chart, She could do a simple, very straightforward self-monitoring, took my antidepressant or didn't take my antidepressant. If she's working on her self-talk, goodness, a self-talk is, or the daily thought record and ABCDE chart is a form of self-monitoring. So simply writing this down would be a form of self-monitoring, and you could look at that and see how is her mood if one of her columns was mood. Or you could just rate her self-talk. If her self-talk is, I'm a total helpless failure, or her self-talk becomes, maybe I'm not such a bad person, and then her self-talk is, I really have some worth and value. If you can track the self-talk through self-monitoring, which is what writing this stuff down is, you have a lovely tracking. Again, reading the inspirational literature, you could just have her self-monitor. Every morning I woke up, did I read something? What is it that I read? What was my mood before? What was my mood after? And that would let you know. Let's say some days she's reading Dave Barry, some days she's reading a devotion, some days she's reading the Bible. Does Dave Barry change her mood in a different way from reading the Bible? Changes her mood. Which is more effective? So she could do like a before mood, after mood, what did I read for how long, and so forth. And that would tell you, A, is she doing it, and B, how is it affecting that? So that would be for this action step. Let's say she wants to improve her energy. What could she do to improve her energy? Well, action steps here again, the antidepressant might work here as well. So this would be to take antidepressant regularly. Let's say that you and she decide that to improve energy, one thing is if she improves her mood and reduces her depression, sort of by secondary nature, her energy should improve. To work on it more directly, maybe she wants to do some form of exercise. And so that could be something very specifically, such as take a daily walk. Now, if you have a client who's very seriously depressed, a daily walk is probably way too big of a goal to set. So she could, try to walk at least twice a week or something like that. But some sort of what would work for the client action step that sort of relies on having some energy, but if she could do it, might improve her energy level. How would you measure? Again, is she taking an antidepressant? You could simply be self-monitoring that. Exercise, she can self-monitor that. Is she doing this? Goal 3, improve relationships, i.e. with her daughter. So what's one thing that someone could do to improve relationships? Well, she could, let's say, plan lunch with her daughter. She could practice biting her tongue when she wants to lash out at her daughter and say, how can you have gotten another C- on your homework? Or how can you have failed to turn in your homework? She could say one kind thing to her daughter each day. So these are very specific things that a mom could do if she wants to improve her relationship with her kid. How would one measure if one's relationship with one's daughter is improving? Well, again, one could monitor, sort of, am I doing each of these in a yes-no fashion? You could give her some sort of scale. You could look for a measure of, parent-kid relationship. And it's likely that there are measures out there. And she could take that. Maybe you would improve relationship with her daughter, work on parenting skills. And so maybe there's a test which shows these are my parenting skills pre, these are my parenting skills post. So those are a variety of different ways you could measure. Now you could take this whole thing and you could do a goal attainment scale. Goal 1, improve mood. Goal 2, increase energy. Goal 3, improve relationship with daughter. There you are. Import it directly into a goal attainment scale and put different levels of attainment and simply have her, put in the target date or somehow indicate that this is where I am this week, this is where I am the next week, this is where I am the following week. And so you could GAS the whole thing there. So there's a multitude of different ways that you can use the tools that we talked about over the course of the quarter to put into a treatment plan. And given that treatment planning kind of is the nature of the business and where we are in our work today, it's a nice thing because you know what you're working on. The client knows what you're working on. You know sort of where you want to get to. I want to have a better mood. I want to have more energy. And I want to have improved relationships. And you know how it is you're supposed to get there. And then it also gives you, the same as when we talked about the gas, it gives you this thing that you can just sort of bring out every so often and say, okay, this is the treatment plan. This is what we agreed when you first came in was important for you to work on. Let's take a look. How is it going? How's your mood doing? And are we still doing these things? Are you still taking the antidepressant? Or, how's the charting your self-talk going? Are you still doing the reading of inspirational literature? Now, it may be that this is what you're talking about in treatment, and you already know all this. But it may be that you've kind of gotten sidetracked. It helps bring you back to focus. Is she still doing this stuff? How is it working? A good treatment plan is malleable. If goals change, you sort of move off a goal and move in a new one. Ideally, goals change because the client has achieved it. So let's say, how's your mood? It's better, but it's still got a way to go. How about your energy? It's got a long way to go. How about your relationships? Me and my kid are really getting along pretty well. I don't think I need to work on that one anymore. So you might drop out, improve relationships, or at least improve relationship with daughter. Is there another relationship you'd like to focus on now? Well, yeah, I really am kind of lonely. I think I'd like to, meet somebody who I could, share my life with or at least go do something fun with. What would you like to put? Find partner on there. Gosh, yeah, ever since, my husband and my daughter's dad walked out on us a while ago, I really have wanted a man in my life, and that would be great. Well, let's switch goal 3 now, improve relationships, find partner, and then come up with some new action steps and some new way of measuring that. So anyway, sort of in a nutshell, that's a treatment plan. Those are the ways that you can use the different tools that we have covered in this class to measure whether and how clients are achieving or attaining those goals. And that's pretty much all I have to say about treatment plans.